How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. There's some people that really want Bitcoin to go down. They're really pissed off that it keeps on moving up. And I want to show you one of those people here today. And to be clear, it is someone that's a media personality, a YouTuber, Gareth Soloway, who's been shorting Bitcoin since 35K and then 48K and then 56 and 60. He said that he'd close out at 70K, but he just talked about how he thinks Bitcoin could hit 15K again. And he says there's no narrative, that buyers are kind of exhausted. And to be clear, I'm not trying to roast him. I don't want anyone to go over to his page and say anything bad or anything like that. You can have your own theories, right? You can have your own investment practices. But I think this is a slippery slope, telling people that you think the market's going to go down because a lot of people will miss out on life-changing gains. And we've shown this this kind of thought process before from Gareth, and then we've talked about from even other Twitter accounts that are supposed to talk about cryptocurrencies, and usually in a positive light, but they said that Bitcoin at 70K is much too high, that it should fall down to 60, then 50, then 40, then 30, eventually down to 10. And then they said they would go maybe 2 to 3K because 10 is too generous. So, there are people that are out there that are trying to FUD you for one, probably because they're underwater on a short position, or for two, so that they can buy long. Like Gareth says that he is pro Bitcoin, but yet in this video that I'm about to play, he talks about Bitcoin hitting 15K. So I don't know. This is kind of crazy. I just wanted to show it because this is kind of nuts to hear. If you don't mind though, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. If you think Bitcoin's going in the opposite direction from what Gareth says, like most of the market, you can check out the link underneath the video to Margex where you can long or short Bitcoin. If you do think Gareth's right, you can go short Bitcoin. It's your money. And you can set this up with no KYC. You don't need a VPN. So you can set this up in just a few seconds. You can deposit money or deposit crypto. You can buy crypto through the app. I would suggest transferring it just because it's a little bit cheaper from some other wallet. And if you're not welcome on other exchanges, you're always welcome over at Margex. Now, of course, make sure you read their terms and conditions to make sure that you are allowed to trade over on Margex. There's also a link down there to HGAalgo in case you want to see bullish and bearish momentum signals. This can be really helpful in markets. Now, let me play for you what Gareth just said, and then we'll talk about it throughout.
Good answer for you from where you see Bitcoin at the end of May.
Well, I said a pullback to 49 to 50,000.
49, you believe that?
By the end of May, I think we could see that, yeah. And I wouldn't even be surprised if it's come sooner, considering we already dipped. Like, think about from 69 today down to 59, now we're back to 50 to 63. But if you, let's just say we get your run-of-the-mill 3 to 4% pullback in the stock market, easily that could pull us back on Bitcoin. And people have to realize also that the inflows into ETFs are something that's great. It pushes extra Bitcoin upside. But it also, if people got in and all of a sudden they saw this volatility today and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't realize Bitcoin could move 14% in a day. I got to sell my ETF. The ETFs then have to sell Bitcoin. So it works both ways. And any sort of drawdown in the stock market will have a short-term impact on Bitcoin. Maybe not a long-term, but short-term impact.
You don't think that people going into Bitcoin?
Now, I'm going to keep on playing this for you. I just wanted to pause it for a second. We'll get to his $15,000 prediction and some other things that he says about Bitcoin, but this obviously took place not yesterday, but the day before, based on him saying that there's a 14% move in a day. And he said that maybe buyers would be thrown off by this. They wouldn't want to buy something so volatile. That same day, we saw $663 million in inflows, and BlackRock had a record day. Yesterday, we had $332 million in inflows. Keep in mind, some of these days, the stock market was down. It's not correlated necessarily, which is going to come into play in a second when he talks about the 15K prediction. But the buyers aren't stopping. It's not like, Bitcoin's a little bit volatile, we better stop selling our clients the ETFs. No, BlackRock continues to buy. They're putting it in this strategic income opportunities fund. So they're going to allocate towards it in other funds that they have so they can make more money on the fees. It's like a double fee then. And they're just going to go throw a bunch of allocation at their ETF. MicroStrategy is going to continue to buy. They don't care about volatility. They're buying $700 million worth. We got news that the Stanford Endowment bought Bitcoin at 45K. We got news that Arizona pensions are trying to buy Bitcoin. Like, these players know that there's going to be volatility. They don't really care. Like, BlackRock is not going to go to all their clients and say, actually, Bitcoin's down 14% today. So I know we talked to you about getting to a 1 or 2% allocation. We're going to hold off because it's a little bit too volatile for you. No, they're going to buy. They continue to buy. They have an allocation, and they're 1/10 what they want to be if they want to get to a 1% allocation with their AUM. So they're still very underallocated. There are countries that aren't going to treat this as a scary thing. Bitcoin's falling 14% in a day. No, BlackRock literally just bought everyone that was liquidated. They just bought them out of their positions, essentially. Like, they bought $1 billion worth, or almost $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? That's about what was liquidated that day. So they're going to continue to buy. But let's keep on playing this. Let's keep on playing from Gareth here.
I mean, even buy an ETF are aware that this is a very volatile asset. I mean, I would think that they've already calculated in their mind that this asset moves like no other and should be used to the stomach churning of 14% in a day.
I think the investor that's buying in at 65 to 69,000 like today is thinking, holy cow, I'm going to make so much money. Tomorrow it'll be 75, then it'll be 90. They're not thinking about the downside. It's when they see that red in their portfolio that they start to say, oh crap, this goes both ways. But I'm telling you, investors, and I've dealt with them for 25 years now, everyone goes into a trade thinking, I'm going to become a millionaire. This is going to be the easiest trade of my life. And then, oops, not so easy.
All right, so 49 to 50K in May.
Let's do it.
An opportunity to pick up more Bitcoin.
That's right. There you go.
But again, big picture, where do you see Bitcoin then at the end of the year?
End of the year, my guess is
that's not a big picture, that's a small picture, actually.
Let's just say end of year into next year. If we do get a recession, which I do believe that we will be in a recession at sometime in the second half of this year, as the metrics are continuing to show, I do think that you will see Bitcoin below 50 and 49,000 back to 30 to 32.
So basically you're saying that you don't think we're going to really hit beyond this 69,324, give or take, that we saw today.
No, I mean, I think you could pierce 70. You could maybe make one more attempt at it. But for the most part, I do think that we're closer to the highs right now, at least in this portion of the cycle. I think the only chance you have here is the hype of the halving. And if the halving if we can get to the halving without a major market correction, then we can go a little higher. Other than that, I think once the halving's over, you get a correction just based on the hype. I mean, think about it. We've gone from spot ETF to halving. What's next? What's the next narrative that they're going to spin? That's the question.
Well, just continued inflows.
Yeah. But again, it's not as sexy as like, oh, it's the halving, or like, oh, it's the spot ETF approval. It's the way humans work, is this mentality, this emotional attachment where they rush into things because there's a story to tell, right? We're very much into stories in our life. We watch the news, we watch social media, we watch all these things. And once that's over, there'll be a sell the news event, much like what we saw with the spot ETF, that'll probably take us down 20%, maybe more.
Okay.
Now that's interesting. He talks about how there's not really a narrative after the halving. Now, what have the narratives really been in the past after the halving? I was here last cycle after the halving, and I guess there were some companies buying, like that was the big narrative. That same narrative is here today. Like, there's a change in accounting rules that allow large companies to buy without having to write down only losses on their Bitcoin. So that's another huge narrative. There are countries that are buying. We know that they're buying. It just came out the other day that BRICS is going to use cryptocurrency payments to get away from the dollar. Like, there are tons of countries buying, maybe the Saudis. There are tons of billionaires buying. There are tons of people accumulating. And it's not like we need some massive narrative to move up. All we need is for there to be consistent accumulation, which is what we've had in the past, in prior cycles. And that's what we're seeing right now. Like, honestly, I don't think the majority of the gains right now is coming from hype around the Bitcoin halving. Yes, that's like something that everyone's paying attention to. That usually signals something bullish. But that's really the important thing, is that we're going into a bull season, not that we're going into a halving. Yes, that cuts down supply that's added to the market. but people are looking at saying this is the bull run. They're not looking at saying, oh, this is the halving in a month, and then there's nothing to look forward to. No, everyone's looking forward to Bitcoin hitting 100,000, 200,000. Everyone's looking forward to BlackRock continuously buying and draining the supply day after day. So that's something to pay attention to. Now let's keep on playing this for a second because he does give his $15,000 prediction.
Okay, so you think it's more likely that we go back to 49 and potentially even 15 than it is that...
Again, please let's keep in mind, because I'll get added on Twitter and every other social... The key is, again, and I say this super clear because people always take the one headline but not the other, is that the only way we're ever going back to 15,000 is if we get a massive correction of over 15% in the stock market.
50%.
50
equals 1.5 in Bitcoin.
That's right.
Okay. All right, and 49 in May, and you think 70 is about as high as we're going to get for 2024?
I do.
Okay. Well, many would disagree with you,
Absolutely.
Gareth, but that's
what makes a market.
That is exact.
So again, you can have your own thoughts on this. Let's play this next part. It's actually the same interview, but a different part where he's talking about Bitcoin.
We're going to dig deep into gold. But before we do that, let's focus on Bitcoin and the moves that we saw today, because we had Bitcoin soaring past that 69,000 high that it hit in November of 2021, reaching about 69,320, give or take, based on Coinbase. Then we saw quite a dramatic pullback of about 14%, and Bitcoin settling at around 63,000 as we speak.
Yeah.
Talk us through that move that we saw today.
So what you saw was this culmination of greed, right? And again, people chasing a move that was already up. I mean, just looking at the last week, we're up from 50,000. We got that breakout above the spot ETF level of 49,000, and the momentum of that carried up to this all-time high. But it's also known as a technical double top. And at double top, there's notoriously going to be players that are selling into that level or shorting it. And when you get to this point of euphoria, it gets every last buyer in, so that when those sellers and shorters start pounding it down, there's no one left to buy. And that's where you get these dramatic drops. In addition, it's accelerated by the leverage in the crypto markets, right? I mean, in the stock market, you can play 2-to-1. 2-to-1 leverage is what an overnight investor can hold in a regular account. In crypto, it can be up to 100. It can be higher than that. And that creates these pockets where when flushes occur, you get these massive moves to the downside. And I would just like to say this, is that if you want the mom and pops that are not in, the people that people hope start to buy into, the pension funds, to buy into Bitcoin, you can't have intraday moves of 10 to 15%. They do not want to be involved in that. So this type of move is not healthy for crypto.
Now, he says the pensions won't want to buy this, but we've already seen over the last few days some pensions that are trying to get approved to start buying Bitcoin. This isn't stopping BlackRock. This isn't stopping the Saudis. We've seen moves like this. This is nothing normal, and it was bought right back up. Like, BlackRock didn't say anything about it negatively. They're not worried about a 14% move. That just gives them the ability to buy more Bitcoin, because that's really probably one of their biggest fears, is they're going to run out of runway. They're not going to be able to buy enough at these lower prices. And of course, they're going to be buying at 100, 200,000 as well. But it's better, obviously, if they can get more people in at this low point and then show great returns, because you know what? Vanguard isn't showing those returns. They don't have the Bitcoin ETFs approved. So if you want actually good returns, you're going to have to go with BlackRock. That's what they're going to say in the future. So it is just kind of nuts to take a look at this. Obviously, do your own research. Like, you can short the market. That's fine. I'm not trying to give Gareth too hard a time. And I'm not trying to send anyone over to his channel to rage on him or anything like that. I don't think anyone on this channel would do that anyways. But there are some people that are just looking too short term. They're getting too technical with it. Have you ever seen that IQ where like the dumb people say that they love Bitcoin, the super smart people say they love Bitcoin, then everyone in the middle is talking about how Bitcoin's a Ponzi, it's not real money, all that stuff. Like, yeah, if you overthink it and you're just not on one end or the other, sometimes you do FUD yourself out of positions. And saying that you think that Bitcoin's price is going to go down, even if it's 20, 30, 40%, throughout the rest of the year, I think is kind of nuts. Now, of course, we could see that, but let me hear your thoughts on this underneath the video. We can always see dips. We're going to see dips in the future, but it's crazy to see some people kind of process where we are in the market. And obviously, some people are losing a lot of money on shorts. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the link to Margex underneath the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.